My name is Carter Oakley. I am interviewing Nelson Pierce. Today is Saturday, November 1st, 2014, and we are at the Lab School in Washington, D.C. Nelson, I can't thank you enough for coming in and talking to us today.
I appreciate being asked. Thank you.
So we just are looking for a little background of your military history, what branch you served in, and maybe a little bit of your background experience.
I was in the Army, drafted in on April 27th, was sworn in here in Washington, D.C. Then we went to Fort Lee, New Jersey for indoctrination and shots. And then we got on a train and went to California, just north of Sacramento, Marysville, Camp Beale. It later became an Air Force base, but it was a field artillery training center at the time. Then when we finished there, they shipped us back to New York, and we got on a ship and went to England. We drew equipment while we were in England, and we were supposed to have been there for D-Day, but our battalion executive officer and our battalion commander were unable to pass the GHQ tests, and we had to get a new battalion commander and exec officer and go through all the tests the second time. And then that's when we shipped out to New York.
So you were drafted, you were not enlisted?
I was drafted.
And what did you feel when you were drafted? What was that experience like?
That was a long time ago. I don't know that I can remember what my feelings were at the time. I knew it was coming. I had been asked by members of Congress, because I was elevator operator at the Capitol, why I wasn't in the service. And when I told them I wasn't old enough, it was hard for them to believe. But I was always large for my age. And when I was 18, I knew that I'd be drafted.
So in your time before you were drafted, you worked in Congress as an elevator operator?
I worked in the Capitol as elevator operator in the House wing of the Capitol. And then we crossed the English Channel and hit a storm going across the channel, and I was with the 155 millimeter howitzer outfit, and one of the howitzers broke the chains. The boats were flat-bottomed boats, and when you went up on a wave, all of a sudden you slap down, and the vibration was terrific.
So one of the howitzers came loose?
One of the howitzers came loose, and we finally got it anchored again. And then they take the boat right up on the beach at high tide. When the tide goes out, the boat is completely out of water. And they have to wait to the next high tide to return to England. That was quite fascinating. I had a chance I walked around the whole thing, and it was, I don't know how long it was, but a very large boat, ship.
Where did you serve when this was happening?
So then our first combat position was in Maastricht, Holland. And we went from there into France, Luxembourg, Belgium, Belgium, and it was in Luxembourg that we experienced our first buzz bomb that hit the area that our outfit had moved out of that morning. Was a water supply depot, and it was, there wasn't a tree left standing in the area where they were, or had been that morning. That's quite an experience. As long as you hear it as it's going over, you're fine. If it stops before you, before it gets to you, then look out.
The sound?
The sound, yeah.
So if the sound continued over your head?
I was of course, with the airstrip. I was mechanic's helper on Cub airplanes, observation planes for the artillery. And so we were away from our unit several miles. Then went into Belgium and then into Germany. Ended up on at the Elbe River. Our infantry was through Berlin to the eastern outskirts of Berlin, and technically Berlin had surrendered to U.S. and Allied troops, but they called all the troops back to the west side of the Elbe River. We sat there for 3 days while the Russians took over Berlin. And that was all arranged with Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill during the Yalta Conference, which we didn't know about at all at the time.
So what did you do during those 3 days at the river?
Played volleyball most of the time. And
So it's
watched,
peaceful?
Yeah, it was very peaceful. We had one incident where a Russian MiG shot down one of the Cub airplanes that had the battalion, or the group commander and the chaplain. And they'd been flying up and down the river watching people crossing into our section. They'd put the clothes on anything that would float. Old gas cans and stuff like that. They put on clothes on that and push them over to the western side of the Elbe River. And a MiG shot them down, and when the colonel went back in to get the priest that he was flying with, he was burned so severely that he died, and of course the priest was burned. But that was the worst incident in that 3-day period that we sat there.
So what were your duties?
Well, taking care of the Cub planes, make sure they would fly, and patching up the bullet holes that we experienced almost every day. And we always felt that our own people were just having some fun shooting holes in it, because the planes very rarely got close enough to the front for enemy fire to hit them. But then after the war was over, I drove a 2.5 ton 6x6, and we took infantry troops down to areas like Frankfurt, and the experience I had was great. We would, being GIs, we would see girls alongside the road on bicycles, or two girls were sitting on the railing of a bridge we went across, and I'd turn the ignition off and then turn it back on again, and you'd get a loud bang. And I could tell by the expression on the guys in the truck behind us whether we made a good hit or not. It was just a lot of fun. But
what did the bang do?
it made the girls jump. They fellas, when we stopped later, the fellas said the two girls on the bridge almost went over the bridge backwards because it startled them so much. But it was one of those things, if you turn the ignition off in your car and let it run just a few seconds and then turn the ignition switch back on, you'll get a loud bang. Discharge from the exhaust.
Yeah, piston misfiring, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So, what? How many times did you scare the girls on the side of the road?
Oh, many. I didn't keep track.
So, is that one of your favorite memories?
Yeah, that was one of the fun memories. There were a lot of memories that were much fun.
I'm sure you did.
But I try not to get into those.
Knowing that there were some good, there must have been some more difficult situations, I'm sure. Did you, what combat action did you witness while you were abroad?
In France, we were ready to set up and send a barrage of shells into Brest. Brest was the last place that the Germans held on to. And our outfit was the closest to it, and we were all ready to, we're just waiting for the word from command to fire, and they canceled it. The Germans surrendered because they knew there was no escape for them from Brest if they didn't. Then I don't remember the battles. One thing I remember most is crossing the Rhine River. My buddy and I were on guard duty, and we were in an abandoned house. It had a potbelly stove, and unbeknownst to us, 240 millimeter artillery outfit had pulled in right behind us. And when we were in the house stoking up the fire, getting ready to change guard, and they started the barrage across the Rhine River. And the explosion from that 240 millimeter gun behind us knock tiles off the roof, and so Red thought that it was incoming, and he jumped over that pot-bellied stove, and I grabbed him just before he went through the window that was closed. He was getting out of there. I had to remind him it was us starting it. We went outside, and it was one of the times that it was a beautiful sight, because you could see tracer bullets from machine guns and artillery pieces as far up and down the front as you could see. The muzzle bursts from all these guns, and it really was a beautiful sight until you stopped to think how many Germans were being killed and for what. But that is one of those things you were taught to kill or be killed. And it made it very difficult when I came home, because I'd get the urge to kill. And no matter who was in the room, it was very difficult. The other thing was, at one location where we were, there was a mountain range, and sort of a horseshoe shape around us. And every night we called it Bed Check Charlie, because there'd be a German plane up taking pictures of where our troops were located. And we never hit him, but you could follow where he was by the tracer bullets and everything going up. And it followed him all the way around the ridge. It was really a pretty sight to see. A little noisy at times, but we never hit him. And of course, our outfit, being artillery, we weren't firing at airplanes anyhow. Another beautiful sight was seeing the contrails from our bombers, wave after wave after wave of them going in to bomb different targets, including Berlin, Gießen. Gießen was a rail center, so it really took a hit. But we were there after the war was over. I was in charge of the movie theater, and one whole side of the entranceway was glass, supposed to be glass. So my assistant and I got a vehicle, and we rode all around the area wherever anybody said there might be glass being made for window glass. We finally got it covered the end of November, but the GIs that came to the movie had to wear their overcoats until we got that glass in. It was so cold.
You speak a lot of these memorable, beautiful moments. Is there one in particular that you hold on to?
Well, the one I hold on to the most was not beautiful. We heard that Gardelegen had just been seized by our troops, our infantry, and that they didn't get there soon enough to save a whole barn full of people that were set on fire and burned to death. The Germans had built this good-sized barn, all steel siding, and concrete floor. They would put hay on the floor and then cover it with gasoline or some other fluid that would ignite, and then they'd get these prisoners that they had picked up, Jewish and Polish, and put them in the barn, and then lock the doors and set the place on fire. They had a trench on both sides of the barn where they would take the bodies and dump them in the ditch after they were burned. Then cover them up with, when we got there, the bodies in the barn were still smoldering. That's how soon after we heard about it. We were about 10 miles away. And that is a memory that actually Life magazine had an article on Garberley. It was, you can't imagine, I still can't imagine how any human being could do that to other human beings.
That must have been difficult to transfer back into life in the United States after an experience like that.
Yep, it was. Many times I'd sit in an armchair and hold on to the arms until my knuckles turned white, just to keep myself in that chair and not do any harm to my family or anyone who was in the room. It was, now they have debriefing of the GIs that come out that I know helps, but it doesn't cure it all. But that's why after a war you'll hear about former GIs committing all kinds of crimes.
Do you still experience any of these feelings today?
No, I sure don't, and haven't for many years.
It's a blessing.
It is. But it's an experience that you wouldn't take $1 million to do it all over again. It was, it made you grow up in a hurry. I was 18 when I went in. We only had 8 months of actual combat. Then we were helping the MPs and doing anything we could to help them. And I was in charge of the theater, so we ate on detached service with an MP outfit in Gießen, where the theater was, because our outfit was a number of miles away.
So how did you get past these traumatic experiences and eventually get over this rage you had?
With my religion, mainly. Being able to communicate with God, really, seriously. I had several experiences that proved to me that there is a God and that He is a caring God. I'm not overly religious, but I know that prayer works because it worked for me. And just that is mainly, I got involved right away at church. I sang in the sanctuary choir that sang at the 11 o'clock service, and in those days we had a service at night, 7:30. And I got in the a cappella choir that sang at the evening service. So I was involved with things, and that you keep busy and keep your mind on other things, and that works very well.
Do you still sing?
I did until about a year ago. Well, 2 years ago. And I had to give up driving. And so it's difficult to ask somebody else to take you to choir and either stay with you or stay there until rehearsal's over and take you back home. So it was just easier to stop.
So did you find religion and God after your time in the war or during?
No,
Before?
I had it before I went in the service. My dad was a Methodist minister in Washington State. And he took 4 years leave of absence from the ministry to come back to Washington as secretary to the man who was his fourth grade school teacher and later principal of the high school he attended, Canute Hill, from the 4th District in Washington. Came to him one time and said, "Nelson, how would you like to go to Washington as my secretary?" Well, Dad didn't. He said, "Sure, I think that would be wonderful." Well, Mr. Hill ran for Congress and was elected. So he came back to Dad to go back with him. So we were here for Roosevelt's first inauguration in 33, March 4th, 1933, and that was the last March 4th inauguration. Roosevelt had Congress change it, so the president wouldn't be a lame-duck president from November to March. It would just be from November, December, and the first part of January, which was a good move, really.
Is there a message that you want to leave for any of the people that will be watching this in future generations?
I don't want to preach, but I was a scout when I was 12, and I enjoyed it. And the Scouts program has been wonderful through the years. It's done a lot for many, many young men. And if you will stick with the Scout oath, you can't go wrong. It's really a wonderful organization. It teaches you respect for others, which seems to be lacking in this day and age considerably. There's no, I'm old-fashioned, but I always respected my elders. I did anything I could to help anybody that needed help. And I still do that. But it's just a character-building organization. And I give the Scouts credit for my being as lucky as I was.
Beautiful.
Being a page in the House of Representatives at the Capitol from January 1941 to April 43, when Uncle Sam sent me his greetings, to working at the White House for 6 presidents from 1961 to 1987. Kennedy through the first half of the Reagan administration. And to have lived as long as I have, I thank the good Lord for. And I've enjoyed speaking to you and to the Scouts and to anyone who might be listening or watching this interview. Be yourself. Keep a smile on your face and be happy at what you do.
Mr.
Thank
Pierce,
you.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk with us. It has been an absolute pleasure, and on behalf of myself and the rest of the Scouts, thank you.
You're very, very welcome. It's a privilege to have been asked to do this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.